Jeff's phone buzzed, shattering the comfortable silence. He whipped it out, a triumphant grin plastered across his face. "Look who it is," he exclaimed, shoving the screen in front of me. It was a photo of a young girl in a uniform, flashing a bright thumbs up. My breath hitched. "Wait, who's that?" Confusion swirled in my head like a dust storm. Why does Jeff have a picture of this girl? Before I could voice my jumbled thoughts, Jeff spoke again, his voice brimming with unexpected excitement. "That's my daughter." My world tilted on its axis. "Daughter? How could that be?" My mind raced, struggling to keep pace with the sudden revelation. "Starting today," Jeff continued, his tone serious, "I'm moving in with her. If that's a deal breaker for you, we can call it quits." Anger simmered in my chest. Did he truly grasp the weight of his words? "Divorce is fine," I retorted, trying to project a calmness I didn't quite feel. "But are you absolutely certain about this?" Before I could finish, his phone chimed again, a notification about his daughter's arrival. Without a single word of apology, he dived into a call. As I watched his retreating back, a mixture of emotions churned inside me. This bombshell demanded action, but how? It was time to turn the tables. No more being underestimated. This time, I wouldn't just get even, I'd get ahead. Let him revel in his newfound joy for now. I, Denise Reed, a capable 36-year-old woman, wouldn't be dismissed so easily. Marrying Jeff, a colleague's blind date, had felt like a fresh start last year. "Focus on housework for now," he'd said, "then support me when we're settled." So I'd hung up my cram school teacher hat for a life at home. Going from a demanding job to housewife felt luxurious at first. One day, a pang of guilt prompted me to suggest, maybe I could work until we have kids. Jeff's dismissal was swift. "I need to be laser focused on work," he'd argued. "If you start working, you'll expect me to help with chores, and that's just not happening." His words stung, hinting at a deep-seated disrespect for stay-at-home spouses. Even the dismissive laugh that followed felt tinged with condescension. "Trust me," he'd added, seemingly oblivious to my discomfort. "Being a housewife will make you appreciate me more, respect me more. If we both work, you'll start demanding equality, and that's something I can't handle." His words, laden with a past I couldn't decipher, spoke volumes. They hinted at experiences that fueled his controlling behavior. The familiar school bell chimed, signaling the end of my first day back in the classroom. It was like riding a bike, a bit wobbly at first, but the rhythm soon returned. Sure, wrangling middle schoolers with their preteen angst wasn't always sunshine and rainbows, but their youthful energy was infectious. These kids, all fueled by the pressure of high school entrance exams, were a far cry from my last student, Amy. Speaking of Amy, the memory of that insufferable girl brought a re-smile to my face. There she was, queen of entitlement, with her ever-present smartphone and permanently attached smirk. Her mom desperately wanted her enrolled in the best cram school, but Amy herself seemed allergic to effort. "No phones in class, Amy," I'd reminded her for the umpteenth time, a familiar refrain. She responded with a dismissive scoff, her green hair bouncing as she tilted her head. "Maybe the problem is your teaching, not me. Make it more interesting." There was a point buried beneath her arrogance, I had to admit. The girl was sharp, that much was clear from her sassy retorts. If only she channeled that energy into her studies. But no, she seemed to relish the power struggle, her smug grin widening with every frustrated sigh from me. Finally, with a flourish that would make a matador proud, she gathered her things and declared, "Guess that's enough learning for today. My mere presence here should suffice. Wouldn't you agree? The problem lies with your outdated methods, teacher." See ya. Letting her walk away without a detention was tempting, but then I faced the wrath of her doting mother. Talk about a lose-lose situation. Leaving work, my shoulders slumped in defeat. Stepping through the front door, I was greeted by a sight that did little to improve my mood. Jeff, sprawled on the couch, glued to his phone. "I'm home," I announced, my voice flat. He grunted, not bothering to look up. "Late? Starving? Dinner?" "In the fridge," I sighed. "Heat it up yourself." A frown creased his brow. "Why?" "I'm exhausted." Isn't that what wives do? This working wife life had become a well-worn routine. Most evenings, I'd beat Jeff home, but occasionally the roles reversed. He, however, remained culinarily challenged. My suggestion of pre-made meals was met with a scoff. Apparently, convenience wasn't a wifely virtue. "Remember that honeymoon effort?" he'd grumble, comparing my current state to some idealized past. How can you change so much? The irony stung. He was the one who'd morphed from supportive spouse to demanding cohabitant. Sharing household duties felt like a logical compromise, but logic didn't always win the day with Jeff. So I became a master of shortcuts and superhuman feats, prepping dinners at dawn and reheating them on autopilot upon arrival. Exhausted but strangely resigned, I soldiered on. Perhaps the thought of divorce had already flickered in my mind, a dormant ember waiting for a spark. Whatever the reason, I hadn't taken the plunge. Until one drunken night, Jeff stumbled in, reeking of alcohol and entitlement. "Pajamas first," I suggested mildly. He snorted, nagging again. That's why. His slurred words trailed off as he collapsed onto the bed, phone clutched in his hand. Against my better judgment, I reached to move the phone. A notification flashed, a message from someone named Sam, brimming with suggestive innuendo. Like old times, it ended. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a night out with colleagues. It was a rendezvous with a past, or perhaps present, lover. Betrayal festered. One message wasn't definitive proof, but it was enough to ignite a fire of suspicion. Infidelity was a deal-breaker. I wouldn't tolerate it. Confirmation was needed, and a hefty price tag later, a private investigator provided it. Turns out, Wednesday work drinks weren't always as advertised. The detective agency followed him on one such night, only to witness Jeff ditch his colleagues and disappear into a hotel with a woman. The revelation was a gut punch. Jeff, the man who treated me like a maid, was also a liar. This wasn't just about neglected housework. It was about a shattered trust, a marriage built on a foundation of sand. Divorce was no longer a flickering ember, it was a roaring inferno. The betrayal burned like a furnace in my gut. Forget shock or sadness, rage surged through me, a primal force demanding action. Divorce, that was the answer, and a generous settlement to boot. I wouldn't let him get away with this. Confronting him with papers in hand was tempting, but patience is a virtue, especially when fueled by righteous anger. I needed evidence, cold, hard proof of his infidelity. So a few more discreet requests to the detective agency, and the ammunition was stockpiled, enough for a solid claim and a swift exit. The perfect moment remained elusive, so I played the part of the dutiful wife, albeit with a simmering resentment bubbling just beneath the surface. One lazy morning, as we both relished the rarity of a shared day off, Jeff piped up from the couch. "You seem chipper lately, Denise." "Really?" I replied, my voice a touch too nonchalant. He nodded, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. "Yeah, no more nagging about take-out meals, and the bossiness has disappeared." Much better, wouldn't you say? Bossiness. The audacity of the man. Did he truly believe those gentle reminders about basic hygiene were nagging? Here he was, a cheating liar, and still had the nerve to mock me. Maybe I had been too tolerant, allowing him to walk all over me. Frustration gnawed at my insides. He sidled up, smugness radiating from him like cheap cologne. "If you can keep this up, we're golden." Golden for what? Happiness, of course. We're about to expand the family. My hands stilled mid-dishwash. Expand the family. The only expanding I saw happening involved his inflated ego. Surely he wasn't implying. As if reading my mind, he whipped out his phone, shoving the screen in my face. Isn't she adorable? A photo filled the display, a young girl in a uniform, offering a cheerful thumbs up. Confusion morphed into shock, so intense I nearly cried out, clamping a hand over my mouth. What bizarre game was he playing? Why does Jeff have a picture of this girl? My mind reeled, searching for a logical explanation. My voice trembled as I tried to speak, but Jeff cut me off, a triumphant glint in his eyes. This, my dear, is my daughter. The revelation slammed into me like a rogue wave. My head spun. This couldn't be real. Your daughter? I finally managed, the words barely a whisper. But you've never been married, have you? We discussed our past in detail, even gone so far as to verify marital records. There was no history of a spouse, no hint of a child. Jeff, oblivious to my mounting outrage, simply smirked. Never officially tied the knot with the girl's mother. That's true. But hey, a secret love child. Isn't that exciting? Just like a celebrity, wouldn't you agree? He puffed out his chest, utterly proud of this bombshell, completely missing the storm brewing within me. Jeff's next words were a slap in the face. She's moving in. Today, if that's a deal breaker, we can get a divorce. Your call. My jaw clenched. Did this man have any concept of reality? Springing a secret child and immediate cohabitation on me? This wasn't a sitcom. It was a nightmare. The most infuriating part, he clearly thought the threat of divorce would send me scurrying back to the kitchen. Furious, I squared my shoulders and glared at him. Divorce is fine by me, I said, my voice surprisingly calm considering the emotional storm brewing inside. But are you absolutely certain? Before I could finish, his phone chimed. A call from his daughter. He didn't even bother with an excuse as he answered. It's my daughter, he announced. A smug grin plastered on his face. She's here. Wonderful. I deadpanned. He turned to me, gesturing towards the door. Come on. Let's welcome her. As we reached the entrance, a young girl stood there, the image of the photo. Her smug smile faltered as her eyes met mine. You, from cram school, she stammered, her face draining of color. Even Jeff seemed to pick up on the awkward tension. He glanced between us, a frown creasing his forehead. What's going on here? Well, it's just, Amy started, but I cut her off, a steely glint in my eyes. What a surprise, I exclaimed, a smile that wouldn't have fooled a poker player. Imagine Jeff's daughter being Amy from cram school. Jeff's jaw dropped. Denise, you know her. Of course, I replied, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Amy's a student at the cram school where I work. Aren't you Amy? Amy, eyes glued to the floor, mumbled the confirmation. The air crackled with unspoken words. Jeff, oblivious, let out a hearty laugh. Small world, isn't it? He chuckled. Well, no more cram school fees for you, Amy. Denise can tutor you right here at home. Ignoring him, I marched to a drawer and retrieved a stack of papers, my secret weapon. This changes everything, I declared, slamming the divorce petition onto the coffee table in front of Jeff. What's this? He sputtered, snatching the papers. A divorce petition, fully completed on my end. Just sign where indicated, and we'll be on our way. Jeff's face contorted in disbelief. Divorce? Are you serious? But didn't you propose it yourself? I countered, my voice laced with icy calm. Remember, if you don't like living with my daughter, I mimicked his words in a high-pitched voice. Jeff stammered, searching for a defense. I never thought you'd take me seriously. This is a joke, right? Apparently, the only joke here is you, Jeff. I retorted. Looks, income, personality, none of it's anything to write home about. Where did you get the nerve to think I'd just accept this?" His face flushed crimson. "You can't talk to me like that. And there's no way I'm signing this." "But you were perfectly willing to throw out divorce threats earlier." I pointed out, his hypocrisy fueling my anger. "Make up your mind, Jeff. Which is it?" The air crackled with tension. Jeff's bluster had evaporated, replaced by a dawning realization of the situation's gravity. His web of lies was unraveling, and I, for one, was done playing his game. The old Denise might have wilted under Jeff's demands, but this new me was armed and dangerous. My weapon, the photos discreetly retrieved from the detective agency, slamming them on the table. I watched Jeff's bluster evaporate. "Why do you have these?" he stammered, his eyes darting around like a trapped animal. I stifled a laugh at his sudden shift in power. "Excellent question, Jeff. But perhaps a more relevant one would be, what do you think they show?" He snatched the photos, his gasp echoing in the tense silence. These were the incriminating images of him and his mistress. Undeniable proof of his infidelity. "This is enough for a divorce settlement, wouldn't you say?" I pressed, my voice laced with steel. "No," he shrieked, his bravado crumbling. "There's nothing to see here." "Oh, I think there's quite a lot to see," I countered, a steely glint in my eyes. "And Amy should see it too." Amy, fidgeting uncomfortably, tried to protest, but my gaze held firm. As I displayed the photos, her face drained of color, and a choked cry escaped her lips. "Mom," she wailed, her voice thick with betrayal. That's Samantha Manning in the photo. Your mother, Jeff's mistress." Tears welled in Amy's eyes, but a flicker of defiance sparked as she glared at me. "Don't you dare call her that. They're my parents. There's nothing wrong with them meeting." Jeff parroted her words robotically, clinging to this flimsy excuse. "Exactly. Samantha and I are Amy's parents. Perfectly normal for us to meet." The absurdity of their claims hung heavy in the air. "There's no evidence of a marriage, Jeff. Samantha's a single mother, and your record is spotless. No divorce. Besides, even ex-spouses meeting at hotels repeatedly while I'm kept in the dark. A bit suspicious, wouldn't you say?" Both flinched at my words, their facade crumbling further. Desperate lies tumbled from Jeff's lips. "DNA tests can prove everything. The hotel, just no other place to meet." His frantic explanations were a stark contrast to the years of deceit. Pity and anger warred within me. The thought of enduring another moment with this man was unbearable. Thankful for this revelation, I steeled myself for the coming storm. And Samantha probably had no intention of getting back together anyway, right? "How would you know that?" Jeff spat defensively. A silent exchange passed between me and Annie. Her averted gaze spoke volumes. Amy confided in me at cram school. I revealed. Samantha's engaged, saving up for a wedding. And to contribute, Amy was planning to take money from you, her father. Jeff whipped his head between us, panic rising in his eyes. "No, that's a lie, Amy. We're marrying and stealing money. Unforgivable." Amy hesitated, her silence downing. Jeff, sensing the truth, exploded. "Is that true, Amy? Samantha using you to get rid of you while she shacks up with her fiancé? No wonder she dumped you on me." Jeff's outrage was a performance, a desperate attempt to paint himself as the wronged party. "Samantha wouldn't do that," he bellowed. "Using her own daughter for money. Unthinkable. Spare me the dramatics, Jeff." I cut him off, my voice laced with disgust. "Samantha's choices are her own business. The only thing that matters here is your infidelity. I want a divorce, and I want compensation. Sign the papers." "But Denise," he whined, reaching for me in a pathetic attempt at reconciliation. I recoiled, his touch repulsive. "Deceived? You cheated on me, Jeff, out of pure selfishness. And blinded by greed, You took Amy in without a second thought. The truth hung heavy in the air, a suffocating weight. Even if there were layers to the situation, it didn't change the core. Deceived. You can't even own your actions. This is hopeless. I'm done. Talk to your daughter. Talk to your ex-mistress. This has nothing to do with me anymore. If you won't sign the papers, a lawyer will be handling our conversation from here on out. I had already anticipated this moment. Packing only the essentials, a single carry-on suitcase, had been a liberating act. Years of stifled desires under his roof meant I didn't have many material possessions that mattered. Grabbing my suitcase and car keys, I marched towards the door. "Wait, Denise," Jeff sputtered, his self-absorption on full display. "You're just leaving, abandoning me." Years of his manipulative behavior flashed before my eyes. He'd relegated me to a housewife when it suited him, then pressured me back into the workforce when finances dipped. The scales had fallen from my eyes, revealing his true nature. Silent compliance now felt like a betrayal of myself. "There's nothing left to say, Jeff," I declared, my voice firm. "The resentment runs too deep. A lawyer will handle the legalities. If you want any semblance of a settlement, show some remorse with the financial compensation." "Compensation? What about the housework? Amy's here to stay, and I just bought a car on the assumption of your salary. Who's going to pay for that?" Even in his darkest hour, Jeff managed to disappoint. "You'll do the housework yourself, Jeff," I retorted. "Maybe Amy can help, and don't rely on other people's money for your car payments. That decision was yours alone, not mine to shoulder." Jeff stammered, a string of incoherent protests dying on his lips. For the first time, I saw a flicker of something resembling genuine regret in his eyes. But it was too little, too late. For behind him, Amy peeked out, her voice barely a whisper. "Teacher," she began. "Dad's, well," reflecting on his actions. "Maybe you could calm down a bit?" Her carefully practiced smile, a stark contrast to her tear-filled eyes, sent shivers down my spine. "Think this through, Denise," she urged, her tone overly sweet. "You're just upset right now. You don't want to make any rash decisions you'll regret later." It was the first time she'd addressed me as teacher, a stark reminder of the professional distance that had always existed between us. Now she was desperate to bridge that gap, to manipulate me into staying. "It's also the first time you've acknowledged me outside of class," I pointed out, my voice laced with a hint of sadness. "Always glued to your phone. Never a hello or a goodbye." Jeff, oblivious to the undercurrent of our exchange, piped up. "Yeah, Amy, it's going to be tough, but good luck. If you're worried about your studies, remember you can always come to the cram school for help. Of course, tutoring fees are a bit expensive." He trailed off, a worried frown creasing his forehead. The realization that he might not be able to afford my services anymore seemed to dawn on him. A flicker of despair crossed Amy's face as the weight of their situation settled in. "Wait, please," she pleaded, but I was already halfway out the door. With a final glance at the wreckage of their lives, I slid into my car and drove away. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: freedom awaited. This experience has driven home a powerful lesson. When a child faces challenges, it's often a reflection of what's happening at home. As a tutor who works with both children and parents, this insight is invaluable. If I'm ever fortunate enough to remarry and have children, I'll strive to create a supportive and loving environment where they can grow into confident, respectable adults. One thing's for sure, I vow never to replicate the dysfunction I witnessed in that family. Thanks for watching and being part of this storytelling adventure. Click the subscribe button to support our storytelling channel.